Today, we're diving into one of the internet's most sneaky and persistent pests, the computer worm. These things are like silent saboteurs that can cause a whole lot of chaos on our systems, and we're about to find out exactly how they pull it off.
You know that feeling, right? You're right in the middle of something important, maybe on a deadline, and your machine just grinds to a halt. Every single click feels like it takes an eternity. You probably blame it on having too many tabs open or maybe just old age. But what if something a little more sinister is going on in the background?
That's right. That incredibly frustrating slowdown might not be a hardware problem at all. It could actually be the work of an unwanted digital guest that has quietly made itself at home inside your system, working away without you even knowing it's there.
So, let's go ahead and unmask this digital culprit. In this first part, we're going to get a really clear picture of what we're actually up against. It all starts with one simple question. What is a computer worm, anyway?
Okay, so here's the textbook definition. At its core, a computer worm is a kind of malware, and it's defined by two really key features. It's self-replicating, and it spreads automatically. The best way to think about it is like a biological worm. It can just endlessly clone itself, and then it travels completely on its own to find new computers to infect.
And these characteristics right here are what make worms so uniquely dangerous. First off, they're self-propagating, which means they literally drive their own spread across entire networks. And this next part is absolutely crucial. This requires zero user interaction. No clicks needed. You don't have to open a weird file or click on a bad link. Once a worm gets into just one machine, it can just tear through a whole network, all while hiding silently in the background.
Okay, so now we know what it is, but how does it actually do its dirty work? Let's take a look at the blueprint for an attack to really break down a worm's method for getting in and spreading out. It's a pretty simple and, honestly, a devastatingly effective three-step plan. First up, infiltration. The worm finds a way into a system by exploiting some kind of security vulnerability. Think of it like a digital window you didn't even know you left unlocked. Once it's inside, it moves to step 2, replication, where it starts making countless copies of itself. And finally, propagation. It uses the network to send all those copies out, infecting every other computer it can find. Now, this brings us to a super common point of confusion. You hear people use the words virus and worm almost interchangeably, but you know what? They are fundamentally different things. So let's put them head-to-head and a little showdown to see what really sets them apart.
This table really lays it all out. So in terms of a host, a virus is basically a parasite. It has to latch onto a file to survive. A worm, on the other hand, is completely independent. For action, a virus needs a person to actually do something, like run a program to get it going. A worm? Nope. It spreads all by itself. And that key difference totally changes the game when it comes to speed and target. Because they're automated, worms spread incredibly fast, and they go after entire networks, while viruses are much slower, moving from one file to the next.
Understanding how a worm operates is one thing. But what's the real-world impact? What's the actual damage? In this next section, we're going to look at the fallout and really gauge the kind of destruction these silent saboteurs can cause.
And yeah, the damage report is pretty grim. That slowdown we talked about at the very beginning, that's just the worm eating up all your computer's processing power and completely choking your network. But believe me, it gets so much worse. Worms can also cause system crashes, steal your sensitive data, and even open up secret backdoors for hackers to install other nasty stuff like Trojans or spyware. And look, this isn't just theoretical. This stuff happens. Do you remember the WannaCry attack from 2017? That was a massive ransomware attack that was supercharged by a worm. It spread like wildfire, hitting over 200,000 computers in 150 countries. And it crippled essential services. We're talking hospitals, government agencies, you name it. That is the kind of power and scale we're dealing with.
Okay, that's enough of the doom and gloom. The good news here is that we are not defenseless. So let's shift gears and talk about defense. How can you actually build a digital shield to protect yourself from these intruders?
This right here is your actionable checklist for staying safe. Keeping your antivirus and your operating system updated is absolutely critical because those updates often patch the exact security holes that worms try to sneak through. A strong firewall acts like a gatekeeper for your network, blocking a worm's attempt to spread. And, just being smart. Avoiding sketchy email attachments and USB drives closes off other common entry points. It sounds simple, but together, these steps create a really powerful defense.
So there you have it. We've seen what a worm is, how it works, and the serious damage it can do.
But more importantly, you now have the blueprint to defend against it. So the final question is a personal one for you. Now that you know the threat, is your digital shield